Hi, this is Dave.
And Sarah. We're Chris's physical therapists.
And Chris is one of the least mobile people I know.
And he has a funny walk.
But check this out.
It was life or death, you know? It was like me and these little babies I had to take care of. And I did it. In hindsight, it's like, how the hell did I do all that? But then again, I mean, look, I'm a white woman living in the first world. I have an education. I come from educated people. I live in a safe place. I mean, women have done a lot more with a lot less. And I always try to keep that in mind.
Alrighty, everyone. This is the Money Peach Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Peach, and I'm going to be bringing on some of the most amazing people I can find so they can tell you how they do their life and their money the right way. Today's guest on the show is Emma Johnson from WealthySingleMommy.com. Now, I'm excited to have Emma on the show because she gets to come on and speak from a different perspective. Obviously, as a guy, dad, father of two, it's going to be hard for me to relate and talk with single moms out there. But the fact is, there are over 10 million single moms, and 6 out of 10 millennial mothers are also single moms. So Emma Johnson comes on the show today to talk about how she became a wealthy single mom, hence it's called WealthySingleMommy.com, and how she is helping other women just like you, or just like maybe people you know, single mothers out there, build amazing lives, amazing careers, start amazing businesses, and do it all in style. So without further ado, let me bring on my guest on the show today, Emma Johnson from WealthySingleMommy.com. Welcome, Emma Johnson, to the show. Super excited to have you on the show, Emma. And this is a first for us. You know, I was going through the history of all the episodes we've done. We're in our 60s now, and I've actually never had a single mom, a working single mom, or even a single mom come on the show to share her story and how her business is working. So you are the first, and it's much needed. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
I bet you have had other single moms that you just didn't figure that out about them. I mean, we are almost the majority of families now. So I almost guarantee out of 60 of guests, unless you're like only recruiting from your fraternity, that there were single moms on your show.
Well, I will tell you this. I've had one person I know on the show that wasn't a single mom on the show. Long story short, she now is a single mom. So there is one. There is true. But during the recordings, I'm going back. I cannot think of one. And I always ask guests. I mean, if you ever listen to the show, you know I ask guests quite a bit about you because I want to know who you are, all about you. So I'm going to do this with you, Emma. I want to talk about Emma Johnson before Wealthy and Single Mommy because I'm on your site. It's amazing. But how did you become Emma before Wealthy Single Mommy? What was that like? What was that transition?
My story. So my story is that I was a married mom and pretty happily married to a very nice guy, and it all fell apart. Very unusual, sad story. Not as unusual as I thought at the time, but my husband was on a work project in Greece, fell off a cliff, and he's after a brain injury. And so I didn't know anything about brain trauma at the time, but lots of people do, unfortunately, and it does change people. And he really destabilized, even though it's a miraculous recovery. It's amazing that he even lived. And today, I can tell you 7-8 years later, he's doing amazingly well. I mean, he's completely involved with the kids' lives. He's working full time, but he 100% destabilized. Our lives destabilized, and our marriage ended within a year. By that time, I was pregnant, I had a baby, and it sucked. It was horrible. And it was kind of my worst nightmare because I had been raised by a single mom. And, you know, she did a great job. My brothers and I, we grew up to be good folks, good, hardworking citizens. But it sucked growing up as a single mom. For me, it was very stressful. We were poor. I felt like my mom, she never really was happy in romance, and it just was, I wanted to do better, as most of us, I think, want to do better than our parents and our families. So here I was, I'm like, I cannot believe it. Like, I've spent my whole life devoted to not being like my mom and and this is horrible. So I had a gift, and the gift was my ex. He had a great job, a high-paying job, and I kind of knew what was going to happen. I knew that I was going to get child support for a while. At the time, I was really financially dependent on him, which was horrible. And that's kind of my mission in life now, not just single moms, but all women. I don't want women ever to be dependent on men. And if you don't have your own money, ladies, you are dependent on the man. If you don't have your own money, you are dependent on someone, and it's probably a guy. And I was dependent, and he left. And I also knew that while he had this high-paying job still, his company did keep him on. I knew just by the nature of his injury and disability that it wasn't going to last. And I knew, I'm like, look, Emma, it shows on, you know, if you don't get this together, figure out how to make money, like real money. I live in New York City. It's not cheap here. real estate's expensive. Childcare is really expensive. Like if you don't figure this out, you're on the street. Like that's the equation. There's no money. I don't have family money. He doesn't have family. Like there's no disability. It was just like, it was me against the world. And the blessing was that it wasn't anybody's fault. It wasn't he left because he was a jerk or there was no money because somebody ran off with the secretary. It was just life sucked. This horrible accident happened. No one's fault. I think that freed me. That neutrality of it freed me because it took away a lot of the anger I see a lot of women getting stuck on. And it just helped me to put my nose to the grindstone and just figure it out. But at the same time, I now fast forward 5 years after starting Wealthy Single Mommy. I started this blog as sort of a personal project, interacting with hundreds of thousands of women every month. Through that, I have an awesome Facebook group called Millionaire Single Mom. My own podcast, it's called Like a Mother. And just as we are talking, I just launched my very first book, and it's called The Kick-Ass Single Mom. It's already a bestseller, and it seems to be really resonating with women.
So I want to go take a step back here, Emma. I mean, there's a lot of things that happen there, and I don't want to skip over that because I know they're really, really important. And so one of the things you mentioned is, so your husband's in Greece, and he's working for business, high-paying job. Are you working at the time?
Barely. I was really a stay-at-home mom at the time, independent. Yeah.
Okay, so you're a stay-at-home mom. You have one kid, one on the way. Is it a phone call? How does that work when you realize that, in a moment, in a blink of an eye, everything is about to change?
Yeah, I was at a writers' conference in Manhattan, and it was at the Roosevelt Hotel. And I have to go there every once in a while for events. And it is always very emotionally intense for me because, I was speaking at this conference and I came out, and this was, 9 years ago. And I had a razor phone, a flip phone. There was 4 or 5 missed calls from this number that was like the central number at the news organization where my husband worked. And I was like, what? That's not cool. Anyways, I ended up talking to my husband's boss, and he's like, look, there's this accident. You need to get on a plane right now. All this stuff just kind of happened really fast. Like by the time I got back to my apartment, I think I'd made some phone calls, and incidentally, my husband's sister, my sister-in-law, was visiting from LA. She had come in to help me with the baby while he was gone, and I was at this conference. So she was there, and all these friends and colleagues, wives, and everybody was at the apartment. Word spread really fast about this, and they all helped me get on a plane. Like literally, when they close the plane doors and there's absolutely no way anyone's getting on that plane, like they opened those doors for me to get on, and somebody shoved like $500 in my pocket, and they're like, you just go. And I had no idea. Like I had just was going to Athens to get to the hospital. I didn't know the name of the hospital. I don't speak Greece. I've been to Greece many times because my ex-husband is part Greece, and we'd go visit family all the time. But it was like, I had my baby with me. She was nursing, and I had her with me. And I was like, it's on. It was one of those super intense life moments that you hope doesn't happen too many times in your life.
How long was your husband in recovery in Greece?
Maybe 2 weeks.
So then you come back to the States.
Yeah, it was just like a intense recovery time for my family. I mean, it really wasn't. It was just kind of like the beginning of the end of my marriage, really. And I was trying to care for somebody that I didn't know how to care for, who was dealing with a brain injury.
Wow. Like you said earlier, you said, you thought it was very, very uncommon. And we've talked about this already, but, when you told me your story, one of the first clients we had inside our business, who's also featured on our blog, she divorced her husband after he suffered a traumatic brain injury on a motorcycle. Her husband's still alive and still a dad, but basically she says he's not the same person I married. Is that kind of how you relate to that?
Yeah, and I think that's just a very, very common story. They're never the same. And that doesn't mean they can't go on. People with brain trauma can't go on and live full, happy lives, or my ex, he's got a girlfriend, he has a professional job, he's working, he's involved with his kids, does community work. But, if you knew him before, there's a difference. And it's a loss. It's definitely, everything that I experienced, it was way more intense for him. I'm never going to compete with that. He lost so much. But it was a loss. That person that I knew and loved is now different. And it's challenging as a parent that, my kids are so little. They're 7 and 9 now, but they were so little when all this was going down that they never really would have remembered a difference. But it's part of their story. It's just part of our family story.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I know it's not easy, and I know I kind of poked the bear a little bit, so I appreciate you sharing that. And so now with that, I want to transition into, so you're a single mom now, and you're living in the city, and it's expensive. What was your idea for generating income? Because eventually you knew that, there's not going to be spousal maintenance or however it was set up. There's not going to be that forever. So, and the reason why I'm asking you this is I've had many people through our blog and our podcast and our course will come at me and say, things are going to change for me financially in a year. I'm a single mom and my husband is going to be done paying for this. What do you suggest? Were these some of the things that were going on in your mind as well?
I've always been a writer, a journalist and a writer. And for, a bunch of years before I became a single mom, I was a freelance writer. And I think that, my second year, I made like 6 figures doing that. So I knew, even though I didn't have income of my own at the time, I'm like, all right, you know what? You did that before. You can do that again. And it's just, I didn't do that when I had babies. So that was new. And I was like, I'm just going to have to do that. That's my only option. And it was really just like getting really laser focused and hustling. And I always have been a hustler, and I always know how to meet people and deliver good work and be creative and find how to get, top dollar for my work and my services. And it was life or death. It was like me and these little babies I had to take care of. And I did it. I mean, women have done, in hindsight, it's like, how the hell did I do all that? But then again, look, I'm a white woman living in the first world. I have an education. I come from educated people. I live in a safe place. I mean, women have done a lot more with a lot less. And I always try to keep that in mind.
What were some of the things that you did right away? As far as you said, you were hustling hard, going crazy. I just want to kind of try to get in my mind what was going on. Like, what did a day in the life of Emma look like at that point?
Yeah, and this is something I really talk a lot about in my book, The Kick-Ass Single Mom. I mean, when you're broke and things are scary, it's very easy to really focus on clamping down and spending less. And I was good at that. I don't happen to have an knack for shopping or, that's just not my way. I like to live pretty minimalist. I enjoy nice things and nice experiences. Absolutely. But, I lived pretty minimalistically, kept my expenses low, but I would spend on things like housekeeping and laundry service and quality childcare. Like outsourcing, you cannot have it all. You cannot build a really great life if you're trying to do it all, and especially tasks that you don't enjoy, tasks that you are overqualified for. I see women, we have such emotional attachments to all these domestic duties. And I get it because I'm still working through mine. I cook almost all the meals that my kids and I eat. For me, though, I classify that as a hobby because I enjoy it. But I think I originally classified it as just something that you do because I saw my mom cooking all of our meals from scratch. And my grandma definitely did that. And that is just my early model for what people do. And by people, I mean women and moms. I think that's how we are. It's just part of the human condition. We assume what we know to be true until we challenge it. And when it comes to cleaning a house or maintaining laundry, that was our model. Almost always for women, it's like we saw the women in our lives doing those things. And maybe those things made us feel safe. Maybe it made you feel safe that your mom washed and folded your laundry for you or cooked for you, cared for you in these ways. And it can be very sweet memories, but that does not mean that you're tethered to that for the rest of your life. So that was a big thing for me. Even when things were so tight, I still had a cleaning lady because I knew she's going to do my house so much better than I can. I hate cleaning. I also, even more than hate cleaning, I hate living in a messy place, and I work from home. And it's very distracting to me mentally and emotionally if my place is messy and dirty. So she cleans it. And if I were to clean like she cleans, it would take me a full day. That's not a good use of my time. I can be making money in that time. I can be hanging out with my kids or my boyfriend or going to the gym. There's so many things I can be doing with that day than keeping my house clean. So it takes some risk. And that is really, if we're going to build businesses, we have to take risks. If we're going to, build our money in the market, we have to take risks. And if we're going to build our lives, we have to take risks and maybe spend more than we feel we can in the short term for long-term gains.
I think we just want to feel normal at first. I know my wife, when she graduated college, she saw her mom work. So that's all she knew is her mom worked her entire life. So she was going to work and have kids. That's the way that was normal to her. But she's also saw her mom cook and clean the house and do everything. And I remember telling her, I said, I think it's different times than when you were a kid with your mom because things are fast paced. my wife's television news anchor. So she, you know, has a very early schedule, very, you know, fast-paced life. So for the longest time, she was trying to do it all. And I remember telling her, we just can't do this anymore. And then we finally had to get a cleaning lady and, you know, some other things to help us out in our lives because she was better at what she was good at. And she didn't have to do the things she wasn't good at or didn't like doing. And so I remember those moments too, where it was like, we're getting a cleaning lady. Like I'm making the decision, and I don't get to make a ton of decisions, Emma, but that was one is we're making a decision to get a cleaning lady.
Yeah.
So tell me about starting your blog then, because I'm a huge fan, obviously, of starting a blog, and it usually always has the same ring to it. You know, you start it off as just telling your story as a hobby, and it turns into a business. So I know that kind of happened with you. So kind of walk me through that.
Yeah, I started it. It had no rhyme or reason. I mean, part of it was like at this moment, a couple of years after my divorce, I had a serious boyfriend and it ended. It was just super painful and horrible. And I had spent my weekends with him when my kids were with their dad. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do on these weekends now? I need to fill my time so I'm not sad all the time. And you know, like I said, I'm a professional writer. All my writer friends had blogs. It seemed like the thing you're supposed to do. It was like not that planned out, but frankly, in hindsight, not much of my life has ever been super planned out. But so I started it, and it was just, you know, it was like an intellectual journalistic project, even more than a personal journal. I think I had always written other people's stories. I'd always been a reporter, reporting stuff. And I was like, well, I'm going to talk about, you know, this surge of single moms and money. I'd been a business journalist and feminism and gender equality and all of this stuff. And because I just think it was a moment for me, I really had all this pent up grief from my divorce and the accident and this breakup. It was just this, I was having a big moment, and I ended up working through it through my writing and publicly. And I found that I was really doing my best work. I was doing my most impactful work that was connecting with people. Like right from the beginning, I got great traffic. I was like the New York Times, the Today Show, like immediately I got great media. And I just knew there's something special. And for me personally, it was so satisfying. The work was so interesting and personally gratifying. And I just kept doing it. I blog 3 times a week for like 5 years. I don't do that volume now because strategically it doesn't make sense and for lots of different reasons. But I really did it as a side thing. I felt like I didn't want to put advertising on it for a while. That's definitely changed. And then 2 years ago, I did a pivot, and it was a business pivot, but it was also more, I was like, you know what? I realized that my whole thing changed when I started serving these women, and I started listening to my audience I really started listening to them and serving them. And it became like a spiritual process, definitely a business process. And then the income changed. And last year I did like $280,000 in business. And this year in 2017, I'm probably do about $400,000 in business. And it's all serving an audience that historically has been really broke. It's so satisfying. I mean, making money is really, really great, but it's also like, it's my activism, and it frees me to go out there and do work that I believe in. And I have total freedom, right? I can write whatever I want, say whatever I want. And I feel like I'm moving the needle on issues that are very, very important to me. So it's been great.
Hey guys, Chris Peach here. Hey, did you know Andrea and I were once living paycheck to paycheck, and we had racked up $52,000 in consumer debt in only 4 years of marriage? Yeah, we were normal until we hit rock bottom. You see, since that moment, we decided to stop borrowing money, stop using credit cards, pay with cash, and then we did the unthinkable and we paid off $52,000 in only 7 months. Sounds crazy, right? Well, maybe not as crazy as working nonstop to send all of our money to the bank in the form of payments. Here's the deal. I'm hosting a free workshop where I share our story and I show you the same step-by-step method to going from broke to debt-free and then on to building wealth. So head on over to moneypeach.com/workshop to grab your spot in this free online training that I promise you are going to absolutely love. Once again, that's moneypeach.com/workshop. What was the income like on your blog in the very beginning?
Zero.
Okay.
Like, yeah,
good. I'm glad
it was not. It was zero. And you know, I would get like nibbles. I don't know. Maybe I'd make a few $100 here and there. Somebody would pay me to put like a link on their thing. And I didn't know what I was doing. And I was a journalist and I was so sanctimonious about it. Like, people aren't going to trust me if I put ads on my blog and all this stuff. And then I realized, I said, you know what? I'm torn between writing all this like very generic personal finance articles that anybody could write. Like anybody can write that. There's nothing special in bringing to that stuff for client work. But what I'm doing over here at this Wealthy Single Mommy Project is special because nobody else is doing it and nobody else can do it. It's uniquely me. And the money just came, and no one wants to hear me say this because it's really not helpful at all, but I'm going to say it at all. Anyways, all that money, it's all inbound sales. I'm not pitching myself anywhere. All those people came to me because they saw that, well, there's some SEO, like I might come up on searches that they want to be part of. But they just see that I'm doing this and this audience and the quality of the work that I'm doing just connects with them and they want to be part of it. That's my challenge. I'm looking for somebody that can help me with outbound sales because I'm like, if I can do this with inbound, what can I do if somebody's actively out there selling for me? So if you know anybody, Chris, let me know.
So I do. Afterwards, I'll talk to you about that. But one thing that I really like about this, Emma, is you provided value. So I've had people on the show before, and the ones who've had a ton of success were the ones that said, I wasn't chasing the dollars, I was chasing the value. I was trying to provide as much value. And I like how you have a pretty narrow target, right? Your audience is not the world. Your audience is working single moms.
Yeah. And I would say I speak to my peers. I speak to professional single moms. And that is very narrow. You're not going to find anything on there about like getting your GED or public assistance or chasing child support. There's all kinds of women that follow me. I have a very active Facebook group. I think we're closing in on 10,000 women in there. And there's all kinds of women. Everybody's absolutely welcome on their journey. But my voice is always very consistent. I'm speaking to my friends, and my friends are professional single women.
There you go. And so many times I'll meet with people that are like, hey, I'm thinking about starting a blog and I want my blog to be about, and they'll have this wide range, like about people who drive cars. I'm like, no, I go a little bit more narrow than that, or people who like to travel. I'm like, I get a little bit narrow. And then the people who have a lot of success are the ones that find that loyal fan group because you're speaking directly to them. I'm reading I'm on one of your posts right now, like your WTF Friday, will my kids be poor white trash from a broken home? This is stuff that you can't say to the public. You can say to your friends, and you're talking to your friends. And I think that's why you have such an incredible loyal following, which is awesome.
Yeah, it is. And I cannot emphasize enough that niche. I mean, I've been in media my whole career. I'm 40. I mean, since I was in college, I've been in media professionally. I can tell you that in 5 years since I've been blogging, the feed has grown so crowded. So if you're like, hey, out there, if you want to start a single mom blog, knock your socks off. But I would suggest going so niche, like so freaking niche, because the feed, like how else are you going to stand out? Unless you have the capital to go and hire a giant team of SEO experts, sales reps, designers, and a team of professional writers, you are going to be lost. You'll never, ever surface. It's done. But if you are really niche, speaking to people who are not being served. One of my favorite entrepreneurs, I don't know if you've had her on here, is Tiffany Aliche. She is the Budgetnista. And she is so genius, and she speaks to African American women about money. She doesn't ever say that. That is her brand. It is an underserved market. And she is herself. She is brilliant and funny and cute on her media. She puts herself way out there. She's really smart about business. But she was serving, frankly, a ginormous audience that was desperate for what she had to say and really giving them what they needed. And she has I think she's got an 8-figure business now.
Yeah, I met Tiffany at a conference and she was sharing her story about how she got started as a preschool teacher and then was living on her parents' couch and riding a broken bike to work. And she was like, this sucks. And she started writing about it. And all of a sudden, all those other people who were in similar situation that could identify themselves became her fans, became her loyal audience. And so tell me about, I just looked on this. We didn't even talk about this. Tell me about the Kick-Ass Single Mom Grant, because I think this is cool.
Yeah, it's something I started earlier this year, and it is just my own project. It's not a 501c3 or anything, and it never will be. It's just me and my assistant that helps me comb through applicants. And every month I give $1,000 to a mom who is awesome. And it can be anything. She can have started a nonprofit, started a cool business, serving her community in some way, and just celebrating her. And so I give her the money, and I trust that she's going to use it wisely. And then I help her tell her story on my podcast and my blog. And that's a really powerful thing that I've learned through this. It's, some women are totally media savvy and they're good. It's no big deal. But for other women, they're nervous and they're not in the media ever. And they need some help telling their story, but just the process of articulating their greatness can be so transformative for a person. I think women, especially, as we're told to be quiet often. And then really the real value of this, the biggest value is that it is shared. It's out there and it is showing what single moms are. And anyone out there is inspired by these women. I have to say that after the election last year, like so many people, I was really devastated and it really called me to action in a bigger way. And I thought, how can I serve? What's my biggest way of serving? And I thought about getting involved in this organization and that organization. And I'm like, you know what? I'm good at what I do. And this is my biggest power right now is this platform that I have. And how can I maximize that? So I think that unconsciously, this was an outcropping. The Kick-Ass Single Mom Grant was an outcropping of that call to activism.
That's very cool. So every month you have single working professional women coming on to your website here, clicking on grant. They fill out an application and then every month you're giving away $1,000. That's super cool. You don't see many people doing this. You don't go to many websites where they're giving away $1,000 to a single mom like that. So again, this is just a testament to, I think, why you've had so much success is because you're providing value. You're doing something that's helping people, right? You're not self-promoting, but you're helping people, reach their goals, their dreams, the same place that you're at, making it achievable. So I think that's really cool, Emma. And I just want to say I have not seen this before, ever, in all the sites that have been going on and all the guests we've had. So you were the first. And I think that's just really cool. So kudos to you. And now let's talk about your book. Let's talk about the Kick-Ass Single Mom book.
Well, I just launched 2 days ago as we speak, and it's been great. It was a personal act of passion. It's a lot more memoir in it than I've ever shared publicly about the lead up to my divorce and the process of going through it. And I'm really proud of it. And it's about money. So the subtitle is The Kick-Ass Single Mom, Be Financially Independent, Discover Your Sexiest Self, and Raise Fabulous, Happy Children. So it's about money, but it's about your romantic life and it's about being a mom and co-parenting and just really leaning into this phase of your life. Not many women plan for single motherhood as their plan A's. But here we are. So let's just make it amazing. If, we might as well. And it's been great. I'm still doing a lot of media. This included, I think we've done like 142 media hits. I was on Jenny McCarthy's show and on The Doctors and all kinds of really, really fun stuff. And I'm starting, women are starting to read it now that it's out and they seem to really like it. So it's very gratifying project. It's one of these things where I feel very lucky. I feel like the timing was very good for what I'm trying to do. I mean, what we're all about so much is gender equality and women's empowerment and tied to money and business. And single motherhood is part of that. I mean, 40% of families are led by breadwinning women in this country, and the majority of those are single moms. And the numbers are skyrocketing. Young people aren't getting married anymore. The marriage rates are at record lows. 64% of millennial moms will have a child outside of a marriage. And it's just the new norm. This is just where we are. And I don't care how you got here through divorce or a child outside of a traditional marriage or choice or death of a partner. I don't care, but you're here and it's the new normal. And the fact that so many of us can build crazy, great, awesome lives for ourselves and our kids is really a testament to how far women have come. It is a testament to how many rights and opportunities that we have. And so let's lean into those with a sense of gratitude to the women and men who fought before us and be changing the dialogue here, changing the narrative.
The book is called Kick-Ass Single Mom. So Emma, somebody that's listening to this right now, who's the book for? Like when you were writing this book, who did you have in mind when you would sit there and close your eyes and think about the person you're writing to? Kind of explain that person, because I think whoever's listening is going to identify with that, because I think this is going to be super helpful, but I want them to take that next step. And I think you explaining just that extra bit, who is this book for?
It is for anybody that identifies as a single mom, is considering single motherhood. So if you're in an unhappy relationship that you're thinking of leaving, going off and having a child on your own, It's for you. You can read it on your Kindle or listen to the audiobook. I narrated the audio. Read on your Kindle. No one has to know. And I find a lot of people are ordering it for women that they love, for their sisters and cousins and best friends who are dealing with single motherhood. And it's a positive book. It starts from the presumption that you have what it takes to really blow this thing out of the water. And I just feel very grateful because I feel like it's just a timing thing. I think that women were ready for this message. We're tired of the old one that told us to go fight with men about money or go be grateful for low paying jobs or go to our families to ask for help. I think we're ready for something a little bit bigger.
Very cool. Well, Emma, thank you so much for coming on the show. We'll make sure we have links to anything that Emma and I talked about. Links to the Kick-Ass Single Mom will be on the show notes, links to her site, links to the grant. And then you also have a Facebook page, correct?
Yeah, well, you can search for Millionaire Single Moms in Facebook. Facebook group. It's a closed group, and it's women it's just so powerful. I knew that women needed community. I knew that they needed to be around. It's so powerful. I don't care who you are, what you're doing in your life. You need to be around people who are going to support your goals. And this is the place. It's very heavily administrated because, there's no room for negativity. You can't go in there and mail bash. You can't just rant. You can't go in there and just complain about your ex. It has to be constructive. And women just say it really changes their lives because it changes their perspectives on what they think they're capable of. So this is not coming from me. This is coming from thousands of women. It's a cool hangout. So come and join us.
What's the name of that group?
Millionaire Single Moms.
We'll have links to that as well. Well, Emma, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate you. I love what you're doing. I think it's changing people's lives. I don't think it definitely has changed people's lives. And you're the voice. You're the voice people who are in those positions are looking for. And I'm glad that you're there to provide it.
Yeah, no, thank you for this opportunity. I really appreciate you. Thank you, Chris.
And just like that, we wrap up another amazing episode of the Money Peach podcast. All the show notes, the links, anything Emma and I talked about can be found over at moneypeach.com/session 82. That's moneypeach.com/session 82. Special thanks goes out to my producer, Steve Stewart, and my assistant, Kayla Sloan. Without them, this show would not be possible. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you guys next week, same time, same place, for another amazing episode of the Money Peach podcast. Take care. Boom, da-ba-doom, boom, da-ba-doom.